This week, did my computer totally explode? Maybe. Did it erase all my files? Who knows? After we hear the full story there, we'll move on to a very special Masonic Minute this week, all about the Missouri Lodge of Research. What is it? When was it formed? What was its history? Then we're going to hear about one of your biggest pet peeves, those ritual vultures who pick at the flesh of those performing. All this and a little bit more in this abbreviated episode of the Whence Podcast. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. Here's your host, Brother Robert Johnson.
Welcome back. This is episode number 477. But really I should call this episode 476.5 or something like that. First things first, I want to thank our contributors, our fellows, our producers, and our legacy partners for all of their continued support throughout the years, allowing us to bring this program to you week after week, month after month, year after year. To learn more about how you can become a supporter of the WCY Podcast, please head on over to WCYpodcast.com, click on Support the Show, and check out all of the different options. Now, I had already recorded an episode and was halfway done editing when my production computer crashed. I had to make an appointment at the Apple store, brought it to the Genius Bar where you set it down and you fix it, and unfortunately it sounds like they're going to have to wipe the hard drive. This is an absolute huge blow to the WCY podcast and peripheral projects that we're all working on, including my lodge projects and everything else. And I do have another backup computer that I'm using, and I'm sure I'll be able to get everything back in chunks and kind of rebuild. But there'll be things certainly that I won't get back, and it'll be a bummer, and we'll have to restart from somewhere, or it'll become, a legend. I used to have this file. So we'll see how it goes. But right now it looks like they're going to try a few things before they repair that. So just to give you guys an update on that. And because of that, I can't bring you guys a full episode really. So what I want to do this week is just go over a few things. I've got a brand new Masonic Minute, which is outstanding, and I hope you guys love that. But I didn't want to go dark for another week. We had been off, the last 2 weeks of 2020. And it's high time to get back in gear on Freemasonry. And so, if nothing else, we're just going to bring you a great episode, even if it's a short one. So I will announce right here and now that there is a project in the works. There is a book that I'm just about ready to release. And the name of that book is called Chartering a Lodge, a no-nonsense, unsanctioned how-to guide. And I went ahead and I solicited responses from many brothers from around the world to give their insights into this book as well. This book was just about ready to be released, like this week, probably before this episode was going to come out. However, that is when the computer did crash. So luckily, I've been able to download a copy of it that I had already uploaded to the servers for Amazon. And I'll have to go through and OCR that PDF and attempt to fix it if we're going to recover it. So that is what's on the docket for the next couple weeks, project I'll be working on. And in addition to that, and of course that book will be available real soon. And so I'll look forward to sharing that with you all. But let's get into this week's Masonic Minute, and I'll be back after that. So let's hear from illustrious brother Stephen L. Harrison for this week's Masonic Minute.
A simple letter written nearly a century ago gave birth to one of Masonry's premier research lodges and started a journey that continues today. Grand Master John Picard wrote the open letter to a group of brothers. I am profoundly interested, he said, in the early history of Masonry in Missouri and believe that much of interest can be discovered in this field. It has occurred to me that it would be wise to form an organization for the study of Masonry in Missouri. With that, the Missouri Masonic Research Council came to life on April 24, 1927, with Most Worshipful Brother Picard as president. At subsequent meetings, brothers gave lectures and presented papers covering several aspects of Freemasonry. The Research Council's first meeting in 1938 began on a somber note following the death of founder, president, and past Grand Master John Picard. Right Worshipful Brother Henry C. Childs, acting president, informed those present there was a growing sentiment to carry on the great work of Brother Picard, but under the auspices of the Grand Lodge of Missouri. It has been proposed, he said, to organize ourselves into a lodge of research chartered by the Grand Lodge. A committee, headed by Ray V. Denslow, drafted a resolution authorizing the Grand Lodge to charter research lodges. That document and a charter for a lodge of research were presented at the Grand Lodge communication the following September. Surprisingly, the Grand Lodge voted it down. Members, feeling many brothers did not fully understand the purpose of a research lodge, regrouped and spent the next 2 years traveling the state to, in their words, duly educate the craft as to the purpose and possibilities of a lodge of research. The 1940 Grand Lodge meeting brought general support for the Lodge of Research. It also saw the election of United States Senator Harry S. Truman as Grand Master. Most Worshipful Brother Truman was an ardent supporter of the concept of a Lodge of Research and personally lobbied for it. With that, the resolution passed easily. The Missouri Lodge of Research was born with Brother Truman himself signing the charter on September 30th, 1941. Over the years, the Missouri Lodge of Research has earned the distinction, along with the Masonic Home, Masonic Children's Foundation, and Masonic Scholarship Fund, as being designated one of the 4 crown jewels of Missouri Masonry. The Lodge has expanded its programs to attract members beyond the borders of the state. Each year, it sponsors 2 Truman Lectures, bringing world-class Masonic education not just to its members, but to all brothers wishing to attend. One of these lectures is given as part of the annual communication and has proven to be one of its most popular events, attracting a full house at breakfast on the final day. Every quarter, members receive a newsletter that keeps them abreast of the Lodge's latest activities. It also includes quality articles on a variety of Masonic topics ranging from the esoteric to historical to general commentary on the state of the craft. The publishing of the Research Council's first book, From Mouth to Ear, by Henry C. Childs in 1936, has evolved into a program of providing a book to each member annually at no cost to the member. Over 75 of these books have been written or edited by Lodge of Research members. At the inception of the Missouri Lodge of Research, its founding fathers, led by brothers Harry Truman and Ray Denslow, envisioned a Masonic library as one of their long-term goals and started a small library at the Masonic Temple in St. Louis. Until 2012, collections of books were kept there and, under the direction of Brother Truman, at his hometown library and at the Truman Presidential Library itself. When the new Masonic complex in Columbia was conceived, part was reserved for a Masonic library. In 2012, the Grand Lodge began relocation of the collection. Later that year, brothers gathered in the expansive room designated for that purpose for the dedication of the new facility. There, Brother Clifton Truman Daniel, Most Worshipful Brother Truman's grandson, spoke to the crowd about this fulfillment of his grandfather's dream. Today, the library, under the direction of the Masonic Home, houses over 15,000 books, as well as many priceless Masonic artifacts. The Lodge of Research has established the Denslow and Picard Societies, named after two of the Lodge of Research's founding fathers, to continue to fund and support the library. The Missouri Lodge of Research boasts 15 respected authors as members and fellows. Among them are both Ray and William Denslow, Alan E. Roberts, Dr. J.C. Montgomery Jr., and the incomparable Alphonse Serza. It maintains a close relationship with the Denslow family, and in 2016 to 2018 worked with them to publish The Masonic Journey of Ray V. Denslow, a 2-volume set which was distributed to members free of charge. The Missouri Lodge of Research, one of Missouri Masonry's crown jewels, continues to be a leader in Masonic education, with a reputation extending well beyond the borders of the state. Every Freemason in good standing, as well as any Masonic lodge, has the opportunity to become a part of it and help Masonic education thrive beyond the 21st century.
All right, now, not something that we're totally used to here, but when Steve told me that he wanted to do a little something about the Missouri Lodge of Research, I was all in. The Missouri Lodge of Research is an amazing organization. I know I talk about it, and have talked about it for a long time. Am I a member? In fact, I am. I put my petition in for the Missouri Lodge of Research in the fourth quarter of 2020. I think it's an excellent organization, and its history is rich like no other. Now, there is an accompanying video to this particular Masonic Minute. As always, I would invite you to head on over to YouTube and check out the Masonic Minute segment there as well. And it just would not be the WCY Podcast if we didn't have at least one Masonic research paper for you this week. So, let's get into that right now. It's Not About You by Midnight Freemason guest contributor, Brother Randy Sanders. While sitting in the east, the master again reminded the brothers he only needed one ritual prompter. It's not so much that the master's ritual was perfect. He tried and worked on it as best he could before he was installed into the office. No, it was half-dozen long-time Masons who loved the ritual so much they couldn't help themselves but to correct it. It was the officers in line that were studying their parts and were learning the full opening themselves. It was the brothers on the sideline that picked up the ritual and knew the missing pieces but couldn't yet put it all together to deliver themselves. The grumpy past masters who didn't think they were grumpy and yet also didn't see how their actions were perceived by the current officers. Sound familiar? How about, "Change your rod," or "Move over there," called out while the candidate is blindfolded? Other verbal ritual correction during an initiation? What about the two older brothers sitting on the sidelines talking in loud whispers enough to be heard across the lodge during the degrees non-speaking parts? Even wild arm waving and pointing for footwork or lighting cues. Many of us witness such behavior and get annoyed or just pass it along as just another part of the meeting. However, after much contemplation on this, I disagree. We, at least in my jurisdiction's ritual, are told we should counsel our brethren in the most tender manner in their failings. We are also told we are all on the level with each other. I don't see that happening, and I'm seeing a few honorifics being promoted as being above the level. It's disturbing. It's not about you. It's about the candidate, and it's about respect for your brothers. We have an opportunity, post-COVID darkness, to make some corrections in candidate and member experience. Respect is respect, and I love all my most and right worshipful, my past masters, and my lodge brothers. I am grateful and fortunate. My lodges, I belong to two, my districts, and my Grand Lodge jurisdiction have done well in guarding the West Gate. I'm even more fortunate that very few of my brothers offer correction during the ceremony, but I see it happen too frequently to ignore. Yet, who will walk up to a Grand Lodge officer, past right worshipful, or even a sideline brother and correct him after a meeting? Who would ask that officer or past officer to remain silent during times of silence, to observe the decorum and sanctity of the lodge meeting, Yet, if we don't observe the decorum, sanctity, and just plain good manners, then how do we make ourselves better for that? Shut up. Well there, I said it, shush. Although those are not the words I would choose to offer, the overall sentiment remains. Any and all coaching must be done after lodge, and definitely after an initiation, preferably in private. Did I miss the part of the ritual where the initiatic experience is all about the officers and not the candidate? Did I miss the part of the ritual where our passions are to be circumscribed unless you have a title or have been a long-time member? I get it that we went through a period where many new Masons were picking up ritual for which they weren't ready, but that's never an excuse to correct ritual during the meeting or degree ceremony. There are some coaching methods that I believe need to be taught, and every situation is different. I like to ask questions and make it light with a smile, such as, "Brother, did you mean for the candidate to hear you say, 'change the rod'? Or, 'Brother, did you mean for us all to hear about your fishing trip while the candidate was being escorted?'" Often, a soft, kind word will get the message across. Don't be offended if they get offended, and simply acknowledge their excuses, if any, to avoid an argument. The message won't be lost. Although it may take some repetition, be kind and know that you make mistakes too. Again, it's not about you. It's about the candidate, and it's about respect for your brothers. Submitted, Brother Randy Sanders. Well, I really like this piece, and I'll tell you why. I like it because Randy doesn't just say, "Don't do this thing." He says, "Don't do this thing. Here's why. And here's how you can correct the mistake of others being brotherly, and also by asking us to remember that we make mistakes too and not to get too uptight and crazy." It's a great piece. I hope we all take it to heart. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a short episode. We only had one piece, a Masonic Minute. What about these Craftsman Plus questions? Well, here they are. Question number 1. Are you a member of a lodge of research? If so, which one or which ones? What is your favorite thing about being a member of a lodge of research? And if not, why not? Your second question is, have you had to deal with brothers getting a little loud during a degree? Do you have a funny story? If so, share it with us in the Craftsman Plus group. That's it for this week. I want to thank you all for joining me. I know, again, this was a shorter episode. Look forward to next week's episode, which was going to be this week. And so there may be some elements of it that date it like it was supposed to be a week earlier. I'll ask you to forgive that as we move forward. I want to thank one more time our producers, fellows, contributors, and legacy partners. Without you guys, we cannot do this great work that we're doing. If you want to learn how to become a person that helps out this program, please consider going to WCYpodcast.com, click on support the show, and see how you can help. And the last thing I'll leave you with this week is that I'll be launching a signature series of journals and pens, a set that will come to you, and we're going to be launching that very soon. We're currently in research and development mode. I attempted to do something earlier last year and the year before with something called Skull and Crown Limited, and that is still going to be a thing. However, we've changed production methods. I wanted to have a way that I could craft something that I could do it for you, not have it mass produced. And so after looking at some different options, I have narrowed it down. I've acquired the technology to do this, and well, stay tuned. A little surprise coming in the coming weeks, and I hope you enjoy. I hope you had a great new year. I hope you're all safe and that you are doing well, no matter what is going on with the country currently. Things will get better. That's it for this week. I hope you all have an amazing week ahead. We'll talk to you all next week. Until then, stay on the level. For Whence Came You, I'm Robert Johnson. Take care.
You've been listening to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry with your host, Brother Robert Johnson. Be sure to join us for our next edition.